We started the programme with the bishops. Let's get a non-religious take on life now. Richard Dawkins is famous as the author of The Selfish Gene, The Blind Watchmaker and many other popular science books, going back decades. But he's a controversial figure, out and about on Twitter these days, railing against fundamentalist religious beliefs and non-fundamentalist beliefs in ways that many have found objectionable. He has his own foundations for reason and science, one here, one in the US, designed to try and remove the influence of religion from education and public life. With religion, community relations and tolerance much in the news at the moment, we thought we'd get his take. In the wake of the Charlie Hebdo attacks, we're in the midst of a big debate, really, aren't we, about the relationship between religious fundamentalists and the rest of society. It was interesting that the former Archbishop of Canterbury on Newsnight last week said the debate isn't really one between Christians and Muslims, it's more between the secular society and Muslims. Which I thought was an interesting observation.
Yes.
But what do you think the rules of the game should be in a modern liberal democracy? Between these different groups who have very, very different belief systems?
Yes, I mean, I think that's a very profoundly important question. I think the rules of the game are that you should be allowed to believe anything you like, and of course that's right, but that you shouldn't impose your beliefs on other people. And so any creed that thinks it has the right to say, not only do we believe this, but you've got to believe it too, or else. I mean, that is a very, very serious violation of everything that democracy stands for.
So let's take some examples. Burqa bans, they have a burqa ban in France. You wouldn't be in favour of that?
No, I'm not in favour of a burqa ban. It seems to me to be a violation of individual liberty. I mean, when I see a woman in a full burqa with just a slit, I feel personally offended. But it's an important part of what I believe, that what I feel personally is irrelevant. It doesn't matter what I feel. Nobody else should abide by what I feel. And that applies, of course, on the other side as well.
What about religious schools? So a community sets up a school, maybe pays for it itself, that doesn't subscribe to your views of education that you've set out today. And now, is that a freedom of speech thing for them to be able to teach what they want or not?
That's very difficult, because there we're trespassing on the tussle between the freedom of speech of parents to impose their views on children and the freedom of children to be educated without having erroneous views. And we now know that in some cases it definitely is erroneous. This is not a matter of opinion imposed upon them.
But you're not against teaching history and things like that
in
a
no.
constructive way?
I'm very keen on teaching history, teaching literature, very keen on teaching religion, as a matter of fact. I mean, teaching about religion, not indoctrinating in any particular religion, because that would go right against the spirit of critical thinking.
It's a tricky one, though, isn't it? Because you can't build a society on the basis that you know you're right and you know that other people are wrong, can you? Because the liberal society is, we don't have to make that decision.
No, that's right.
You can decide what you think and you decide what you think, but you are really saying that they have to teach, children have to be taught in your creed.
Well, no, there is a difference. I mean, let me use the example you just used of the burqa ban. That's a matter of opinion, and there the society, it seems to me, has no right to impose on other people. Evolution is not a matter of opinion, it's a matter of fact. The evidence is as overwhelming as in the case of, that the Earth orbits the Sun. That's not up for dispute.
You are in the camp as, really are probably associated as being one of the most, and I think the disparaging phrase is militant atheists in the world, probably. What do you think of that phrase? What do you think of that accusation? And do you, if you like, revel in that place, or do you hate it when people try and, if you like, put you in the same category as fanatics on other sides of the religious divide?
Well, fanatics, religious fanatics are apt to take the law into their own hands on occasion, aren't they, and actually threaten people, actually use physical violence.
But you choose to go onto Twitter. It's not a venue for scientific debate. You choose to go on Twitter. Just to take one example, a tweet in which you drew a very invidious comparison between the number of Nobel Prizes won by people from Trinity College, Cambridge, and the entire Muslim population of the world. Trinity College, Cambridge comes out on top of that comparison. Now, not disputing the factual basis of it, why make such an invidious comparison? Why raise that? Why raise the issue? What's the point of drawing attention to that?
It is a fact that in the Dark Ages and Middle Ages, the Islamic world was a beacon of scientific progress and enlightenment. And something has gone wrong. I had dinner with the then Chief Rabbi, Jonathan Sacks, a few months ago, and learned there the astonishing fact that between 20 and 25% of all scientific Nobel Prizes have been won by Jews. And I thought that was a stunning fact. It really is. I mean, when you think the total population of Jews in the world is tiny compared to really any other of the major religions. So I wanted to make this point that Islam has stagnated in the scientific field since the Middle Ages, and the best comparison to make would have been with Jews. And then I thought, oh no, I can't do that, because that will really upset people because of Palestine, and I'm very sympathetic to the plight of the Palestinian people in Israel. So at the last minute, I crossed out Jews and stuck in Trinity College, Cambridge.
But I can think of much more gentlemanly ways of making the intellectual point that Islam has not been a great scientific contributor.
It's just a fact. Whether or not it upsets people is less important to me than the dramatic nature of the fact, which ought to be looked at. Somebody ought to be saying, why?
But you would agree that you pick an argument with people of religion or religions, don't you?
Pick an argument, suggest
you
going
go out of your way to say things that are pointed
that.
about that religion or those groups of people.
It's a good point that the best way to convert people is not necessarily to tell them they're idiots. And I have occasionally seemed guilty of that. For example, I once wrote in the New York Times that anyone who doesn't believe in evolution is either ignorant, stupid, or insane. Now that sounds like an extreme point of view. It's actually a factual point of view, because the word ignorant is not a disparaging word. I'm ignorant of all sorts of things, and so are you, I'm sure. And we would be quite happy to own up to being ignorant of many things, ignorant of music or ignorant of art or ignorant of baseball, whatever it might be.
I think a lot of moderate religious people are very turned off by your discourse.
Well, some may be, and that may be my political error. There are
tactical error in terms of, because your job, you see your role as trying to convert the world to your point of view. I think. I mean, that's
I see my role as trying to persuade people to think for themselves and look at evidence. I mean, if they come round to my point of view as a result of looking at evidence, then so much the better.
Have you ever been wrong about anything important?
Oh yeah.
Give me an example.
What? Well, I'd have to go into sort of rather recondite scientific matters, but I've been wrong on scientific questions and have said so. Scientists actually rather like being wrong. It's unlike politicians; they get a sort of kudos from admitting that they're wrong, because that's how science proceeds.
Richard Dawkins, thanks for talking to us.
Thank you very much.